Hello friends, welcome to another video. I had somebody ask on Instagram how to avoid the water that comes off the zucchini and the cucumber noodles. And I assume if they had that question, that a lot of you may have that question as well. So let's dive into some tips and ideas that you can do to help lessen that in this video. Thank you so much for joining me today for this video. We're going to be talking about some tips and tricks and ideas on how to lessen the water that comes off of zoodles, which are zucchini noodles, or koodles, which are cucumber noodles. But before we begin, we have 40% off any or all of our raw vegan recipe ebooks. There are quite a few zoodle and koodle recipes in amongst all our ebooks, but if you're interested, 40% off code is rawfood40. You can get wraps, burgers, tacos, salads, smoothies, nice cream, all kinds of delicious stuff in our ebooks. Go to the link in the description box below to our e-store and see all the goodies that you can get. So let's talk about zoodles and koodles. So as I mentioned, zoodles are noodles made from a zucchini. So it's basically a zucchini spiralized. And koodles is a cucumber spiralized. There's other kinds that you can make as well, like you can spiralize carrots or turnips or anything, really, sweet potatoes too. But mainly people do zucchini or cucumbers. Those tend to be the best. And some people like zoodles better than koodles, and other people like koodles better than zoodles. I personally prefer the cucumber noodle. I feel it's crispier, it's more al dente, but I find the zucchini one to be a little bit more spongy, and I'm not as much a fan of those. I'll still eat them if somebody made them, but for the most part, I choose cucumber noodles. I like them a lot better. But whether you choose cucumber or zucchini, one of the main issues with that is once you put the sauce on and mix it up, there's a whole bunch of water that comes out of them. So first, before we begin the tips, I want to actually reiterate that zoodles and koodles are not pasta. They will never be pasta. They are their own thing, and they're not going to taste like pasta. They're going to have a similar texture, feel when you twist them up into the fork and you take a bite. There's noodles everywhere. That's going to be a little more familiar, but they're not going to be pasta, and they never will be pasta. We have to appreciate them for what they are. They are in their own league, their own different kind of meal. So not expecting them to act like pasta will really help, because then we can appreciate them for what they are instead of trying to make them be something that they aren't. So for one, a lot of people will add a little bit of salt. I don't really like this version because I don't like adding a lot of extra salt to my diet, but some people will sprinkle a little bit of salt onto the noodles after they've been spiralized and then wait a little bit, because the salt will actually produce a lot more sweating of the zucchini or the cucumbers and release a lot of the water. So some people will sprinkle it with salt, let it sweat, and then they will rinse the salt off and spin dry the noodles so that they are a little bit less water content than normal. I personally feel like this is a little bit of extra work that I don't really necessarily want to do. Plus, why would I want to waste the extra hydration of the noodles in the first place? Because that's why I'm eating the cucumber or zucchini, to get some of the natural hydration in that food. So that said, a lot of times, as soon as we add the sauce to the noodles, it starts to sweat because of any sodium, especially tomato sauce. Tomato sauce tends to be a little higher in sodium because tomatoes actually have a little bit more natural organic sodium in them. So they cause a lot more sweating. So some people will plate it up, put the sauce on, and there's like a pile of water at the bottom. Number one is that you can actually make your sauce thicker. So add less water, as least amount of water as you can when you're blending your sauce. If you make a sauce and you add more water, that water is going to also be in your meal as well. So try to make a super thick sauce, because then any water that comes off the cucumber or zucchini noodles is going to mix with the sauce and make it a little bit better and not as watery. So you can do that as the first tip. The second tip is, instead of mixing it all together, to just clump the sauce or whatever you're putting on your noodles in the center at the top. because that way it's not exposed to very much of the other noodles, so they're not going to sweat as much. And that way you can twist up some noodles and then take a little bit of the sauce in the bite, each bite, instead of mixing it all together and causing a lot of that extra sweating, which is going to make them a little bit more watery. So that's another tip that you can do. And the third tip obviously is to drain it out about halfway through the meal. You can use a metal strainer to do that and just tilt the bowl over the sink and just drain off some of the water that is sweat off the noodles. And you can do that and then go back to your meal if you want to. That can be a little bit of an inconvenience. It's not that big of a deal, but if you don't want that sauce, the extra water, then you can always drain it off as well. I personally don't mind the extra water because I kind of think it's like it morphs into another kind of meal. Like you start off with the sauce, the chunky sauce on the noodles, and you get that little bit of experience. And then over time, it turns into like a soupy ramen kind of style thing. So I personally don't mind the transition. I usually don't drain off any of the extra water that comes on it. I just like to mix it up or just save it for last and drink it like a soup in a way. So there's that as well. And then finally, you can use this bonus trick if you want, is to get a metal strainer, a fine meshed metal strainer, and then another bowl that you can have underneath it. So you need to have a little bit of space, probably about an inch away from the metal strainer, and you can put your meal in the metal strainer. That way, any water that drips will just drip into the bonus bowl that you have. So you're always going to be eating the sauce with the noodles without having that extra water. This is just like a nerdy out kind of like bonus geeky way of doing it. If you really wanted to avoid the water, this is a great way to do it. So just use that metal strainer and have the bowl underneath catching any extra water that you have that comes off of your noodles. But hopefully this video helped someone out there. And if it did, please click like. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you're looking for more recipes to add more raw food to your life, check out our ebooks. You can get our wraps, which are so delicious. You can take them to work, to school, camping, hiking, on road trips. They're so much fun. They last up to 3 days after wrapping. Delicious and easy. So you can get that ebook, you can get burgers, you can get tacos. If you're looking for salads, you can go into my meal plans. If you need a transition guide, you can learn how to add more raw food to your diet. There's 47 recipes in there. There's also appetizers and all kinds of good stuff. It's all 40% off, all for you. Code is rawfood40. You can find the link in the description box below or here on the screen. So until the next video, I love you all so much as usual. And fruit on.